When somebody's all in your personal space, just tell them, get arm's distance. Get arm's distance. Like and subscribe. Here we go with another episode. Get arm's distance. I'm your host, Regis Caldwell. And today we're going to be talking about this upcoming fight, November 20th, 2021, with welterweight champion Terence "Bud" Crawford putting his title on the line against Shawn "Showtime" Porter. Spend a little time talking about both fighters, and then I'll give you my fight prediction on who I think is, who's going to pull out that fight and what round. I'll even tell you what shot I think is going to end the fight. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's start off with challenger Shawn "Showtime" Porter. I believe he's a two-time welterweight champion. I believe he won his first welterweight title against old veteran champion Paulie Malignaggi. That was a pretty good fight, dominated by Shawn Porter. When I first saw Shawn Porter on the scene, he looked like a welterweight Mike Tyson to me. He was just in there ripping the body, throwing hooks, and he was landing them. Most importantly, he was landing those big shots, and he annihilated the competition of Paulie Malignaggi. Yeah, that was one of the first few fights that I seen Shawn "Showtime" Porter on TV. And, he had a good performance right there. I felt like Shawn was going to be a force to be reckoned with in the welterweight division. He had potential to clean it out. That's how I was seeing him. He reminded me of Iron Mike Tyson, back in his heyday when he was cleaning all the heavyweights out. So that's the kind of fighter that I seen Shawn Porter as. Energized, good chin, take good punches. Got a good IQ, got a good style. It's like unorthodox. It's very unorthodox. Don't nobody fight like Shawn Porter, so it's kind of hard for a lot of people to train to fight Shawn Porter. He's in there, a lot of energy, throwing a lot of punches, smothers you. Gets his shots off while he smothers you. Ultimately, I feel like, he just got a style that can't nobody duplicate. It's probably hard to train for somebody like Shawn Porter. So Shawn Porter overall, he's a top welterweight, and he's a fighter that can't nobody take lightly. You got to bring your A game if you're going to beat him. You're not going to bring your B game and beat Shawn Porter. You got to bring your best. And that's what makes him dangerous. Because if it's any given night, if you don't bring your best, then, that's how the fight is going to end, with him raising his hand. That's pretty much how I feel about Shawn "Showtime" Porter. Yeah, also, throughout the years, he got a couple of losses. A few losses. But I believe his first loss came from a champion, Kell Brooks. Kell Brooks was an excellent boxer. He did pretty much everything right. Used his jab. I love boxers that use their jab and set up everything behind the jab. And he was one of those fighters. You can learn a lot from those type of fighters if you in it for like the educational purposes and learning. He's one of them fighters that you can, take notes from. So yeah, that was a loss that Shawn Porter that suffered. I believe his second loss came to Keith Thurman, and that was like one of them fights that could have went either way. I think if you looked at it with Keith Thurman winning a split decision, he won it just by inches. He just maybe a round or two away from actually winning himself. So, that's one of them things. He fights you good, I only seen him being dominated by one fighter, and that was Kell Brooks. But you know, Keith Thurman, I didn't think Keith Thurman dominated the fight. I think that he won the fight, but it wasn't a dominating performance. And his third loss came from unified champion Errol Spence Jr. And you know, that was a toe-to-toe battle. You really haven't seen Errol Spence get tested in ways that Shawn Porter tested him. You know, he got hit with some good shots and bounced back and showed good boxing IQ, and he slugged with him when he had to slug with him, boxed when he had to box, moved out the way when he had to move. You know, Errol Spence showed, like, you know, a good fight, a complete fight, and he did what he had to do to get the win. And in the midst of that, in the 11th round, he got a knockdown, and that kind of helped solidify the win for him. And he's right there, though. Shawn Porter, man, you know, a lot of people probably thought Danny Garcia was going to be able to beat him, you know, because he was losing to, you know, the top welterweights, and they was scaling Danny Garcia. Is he one of the top welterweights? You know, is he going to be able to get over the hump? And I believe that, like I said earlier, you got to bring your A game, and Danny didn't bring his A game, and Porter left champion. So it's just one of them things. You got to bring your A game if you're going to beat Shawn Porter. You got to bring it. If you don't bring it, he's going to leave victorious. And I seen, you know, a flaw from Shawn Porter. I think that, you know, in the later rounds, he kind of get a little lackadaisical. I don't know if it's fatigueness or he's just not concentrating. But that's when he suffered his knockdowns. The first time I seen him get knocked down in the 12th round, he was up on the scorecards against Adrian Broner, and Adrian Broner caught him with a left hook, knocked him down. I don't think it hurt him. It's like a flash knockdown, and it was like, where'd that punch come from? And I think Errol Spence caught him with a left hook, and that sat him down too. So I think he's vulnerable to left hooks in the later rounds. I think that, you know, maybe his alertness might be off a little bit. Concentration, fatigueness might kick in. Yeah. So let's get to the champion. 3-division champion. Terence Bud Crawford. One of the top fighters in boxing, period. Fan favorite. Does everything that any fan would love for him to do. He boxes, shows aggression. If he gets you hurt, he gets you out of there. You know, switch hitter, you know, he'll fight you southpaw, he'll fight you orthodox. He'll figure out exactly what's going to work for him, and then he executes. What's not to like about a fighter like that? And then he has that determination and grit and focus that a lot of fighters don't have, that tenaciousness. So I believe Terence Crawford is the fighter to beat in the welterweight division. And he comes out there, and I never seen him slouch. You know, he comes out there, he puts up a good fight, good energy, good determination, great IQ, you know. Watching him fight, a lot of fights and stuff. I think that other fighters might have some success for, you know, going against him. And then the game plan that he implements, it just takes everything away from the other fighter. And he does what he does, and he executes, and he gets you out of there. He's not playing around. You know, some say that he has the spirit of, like, one of the fighters of the 80s. And then, you know, when they say the golden years of boxing, like a Marvin Hagler, just a mean fighter. You know, he just going to want to beat you up and get you out of there, and he's not playing around. And it don't even have to be a pretty performance. But, you know, he wants to close that show. He wants to end with you on your back. He wants you hurt. So that's Terence Crawford right there. You know, got his championship from, I don't know, he came up from, I believe, lightweight. Now he's at welterweight. He won his welterweight championship from Jeff Horn, you know, and he dominated that fight. Looked like the stronger fighter coming up from 140 pounds. At all his fights, he fights undefeated fighters, and he's been closing the show. So, you know, when you're an undefeated fighter, you going to fight hard because you don't want your O to go. And that's the type of competition that he's been fighting. But, you know, a lot of people want to see him step his game up and fight, you know, the more top, you know, names around the welterweight division. And, you know, Kell Brooks was a good name. And he dominated that fight and closed the show. Shawn Porter is a good name. And I'm expecting Shawn Porter to, in Shawn Porter fashion, fight hard, you know, give 110% effort and look for the win. And Terence Crawford, this is his opportunity to show what he can do against a big name in the welterweight division. So every time you step out there on the ring and stuff, you know, you're going to be judged, critiqued from everybody. And it doesn't even matter about what you did in the past. It's about what you do now. So he has to keep that mentality that he's been having and come out there and fight every fight hard, you know, and be smart, be quick, be decisive, and just continue to be Terence Crawford. I believe that Terence Crawford is the favorite to win the fight. I believe that he will win the fight. The thing is, can he keep his streak going? Because since he's been up to 147 pounds, he's been stopping all the fighters. And Shawn Porter hasn't been stopped. You know, he's been knocked down a couple times, but he hasn't been stopped. And I think that'd be a very good accomplishment if he can stop Shawn Showtime Porter. And that'll put a good message out there for, you know, the welterweight division out there to, you know, see exactly where he scaled out against the top welterweights. You know, like I said, Shawn Porter done fought everybody from Keith Thurman to Errol Spence to Danny Garcia to Ugas. And, you know, he fought all those fighters very well. You know, and in some of them fights, he felt me it could have went either way. But, you know, he was right there in the fight. And this is a good challenge for Terence Crawford to show exactly what he's made out of, and just to show the class of what type of fighter he is against another classy fighter with a lot of good fighting attributes. I think that Terence Crawford will stop Porter in the 11th or the 12th round. You know, I want to say it's going to be a left hook because Porter has been knocked down by left hooks in previous fights. And it's called a cliche thing, but I think that, you know, he get caught with a left hook and might get hurt, and then Terence Crawford jumps on him and gets him out of there. But ultimately, I believe that Terence Crawford will get the win. And that's my fight prediction. My name is Regis Caldwell. Get arms distance is, you know, that's my thing right there, you know. Back in the day, I used to, you know, get in there and scrap a little bit. And I used to like to keep them fighters at arms distance because I got somewhat arms that's kind of long and stuff, you know. Keep them at bay, you know. Get arms distance, man. Don't let nobody get in your space. That's me. Get arms distance, Regis Caldwell, and have a good one. Like and subscribe.